Gankutsuou, the Count of Monte Cristo, was an anime that I'd known about for a while but never got around to watching. Whether it was just out of laziness or that it wasn't appealing enough to beat out the other anime I planned to watch. But recently, in my attempt to watch a bunch of different anime with the most unique art styles out there, this, of course, had to make the list. And so the Count of Monte Cristo is based loosely off the book of the same name written by Alexandre Dumas, like 200 years ago or something. And so I think it's only fair that the anime had to be modified in a number of ways to animeify it, I guess. To make what used to be that one book you had to read for your 11th grade English class to be more interesting for modern audiences. But it never loses that feeling of being an old French tale, and thus still maintains this incredibly interesting Western-style story. It's certainly a hidden gem among anime, and taking into account the intriguing, mystery-filled plot bathed in revenge, to the many fleshed-out characters and side stories, make Gankutsuou the Count of Monte Cristo a must-watch. And just to let you know, I will be avoiding major spoilers, just outlining the synopsis, thematic elements, and what really stuck out to me when watching it. But before I get into the review, if you enjoy anime or manga and want to see more content like this, subscribing would be huge. Enjoy the video. So despite being based on a story almost 2 centuries old, the setting is far into the future in 5053. But don't let this deceive you into believing it's a sci-fi story. I mean it is, kind of. There's spaceships and stuff, but it's more like a futuristic twist on the old bourgeoisie setting of Paris. When class and reputation meant everything, arranged marriages were made to improve the standing of a family, noble lives were essentially predetermined. And as such, we follow the story of Albert de Morcerf. No, I don't know how to speak French, that's just how I said it. I'm sorry if anyone watching this speaks French, I only know English and Japanese pronunciations. Albert visits Luna, a city on a distant moon with a famous festival on it. Albert is with his friend Franz, both of whom are nobles in Paris, and they've grown up groomed and rather secluded from the larger part of society. And because of this, Albert is looking for something more, meaning in his life, something that excites him. And in this search, he stumbles upon the Count of Monte Cristo. The Count is extremely charismatic and woos Albert, the 16-year-old boy, into his grasp, which I would like to say isn't creepy and it isn't perverted in any way. But there's actually a lot of theories about the Count grooming Albert in a very, well, creepy and perverted way. But that's beside the point. Through a couple plot points and happenings, Albert ends up introducing the Count into Parisian society. Because despite being a Count, Monte Cristo's backstory is actually completely unknown, which is normally a no-go in Paris' noble society where family and reputation means everything. And the story proceeds with the Count actually planning a twisted and intricate plan of revenge against the people who wronged him long ago. And so, being based on a book that is generally considered to be timeless, I honestly think the anime is the same. The plot is very impactful and full of mystery, on a level you don't often see in typical anime, and it's what you would expect more of literature. Around episode 18, the story branches off from the book to, create its own ending and make a name for the anime itself, but up to this point makes a very solid foundation. Revenge is also a topic rarely done in anime, as the central driving force of the plot at least, with some exceptions like 91 Days off the top of my head, which is rather similar. Despite the two very different settings, the idea of infiltrating a family or group of people who betrayed you long ago is key to both, and I think the best part of this is you end up rooting for both sides. Despite the fact that these people betrayed and utterly ruined the Count of Monte Cristo's life long ago, they are now the victims. And as the mystery unfolds, they go from very innocent people in your eyes as they're introduced, to removing layer by layer and seeing the evil, dark side of humanity that lies beneath the surface. It's actually a great criticism on old society's needs for what is oftentimes a false exterior, something that you show to people that really is not true. And the Count of Monte Cristo as well, he's definitely evil, he has a reason. It's not that he isn't justified, and so everyone in the story has their flaws. And that's great. There's no perfect character, the one that everyone loves, the Gojo, the Levi. They all have their problems, and throughout the story we see them fall victims to their issue or rise above them and find a way to be happy despite it. Albert is a very interesting main protagonist because he's not very cool. He's pretty lame actually, but I think this makes him relatable. And when I say lame, it's not at the level where they're annoying, because we do see that often. But I think the setting in itself and the very book-esque plot allows for very human, normal characters to drive it forward. Even though there are sci-fi elements and sometimes the sense of the supernatural, the story very much revolves around humans and human desires. And that is what makes Albert and everyone else in this story great. He's looking for purpose in a society where he's been raised to be something that he may not want to be, and the introduction of a charismatic and charming man will, of course, entice him. I'm sure that any of us bored with our lives would jump at the opportunity not just for something interesting, but just change in general. And though Albert's desire is more explicit, it can be said that all of the characters here have something that they want, something that they can't express because they have an appearance to keep up. Other characters like his friend Franz, his wife-to-be in an arranged marriage, of course, and the rest of the cast that essentially consists of 3 different families whose parents are friends, struggle with their human desires. Because they have a reputation to hold up in the Parisian bourgeoisie, we witness jealousy, adultery, greed, marital problems, abuse, lust. Just about any human character trait or emotion you can think of has been injected into this series in a tasteful way that serves to further the exploration of the human psyche. And as I mentioned in the beginning, you may have forgot, but this anime has one of the most unique and almost entrancing art styles out there. They do this thing where clothes and hair have this abstract design that never moves with the characters. It's like it's the background and they're just moving along with it. I don't really know how to explain it because I don't study art, but I'm sure you can tell what I mean just from the clips I've included. This is what I'm talking about. But this animation style with the very royal, regal, and abstract designs gives you the feeling of old Paris, adjusts your mind to understand the society that Albert and the Count live in. I came into this series actually with pretty high expectations. I knew it would probably be a slow burner, or at least a very dialogue-intensive and detailed story, and it was. If you really can't stand that, then I guess it's not for you, but there really are not many anime like this. You know, being based off a manga is totally different from European literature. Not to say manga is any lower in status or less sophisticated, not at all, but they do have completely different ways of storytelling and topics and thematic focuses more often than not, and that's why Gankutsuou is really a breath of fresh air. It's really addicting. It draws you in from the start with the same feeling of curiosity that Albert has, and it keeps you going as it continues to peel back layers of the history of these people, these nobles, and what they've done to get here, at what cost. You should definitely give it a try. The idea of mixing old culture with sci-fi wouldn't seemingly work, but it does. And I guess that's one of the best ways to describe this show. It's a lot of things that you wouldn't normally see together, working together in perfect harmony. European versus Japanese storytelling, the future versus the past. It all comes together in this way that's super unique, and even if you don't really enjoy the show, it's worth a watch just to see how far anime can go. As always, this has been the Anime Culture Corner. I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe for future in-depth show, manga, and character analyses.